Blessings, family. Happy Sunday. What can I say? I wanted to come on today because a couple of things came to mind. I'm sitting in my house and I decided I want to put on a necklace. And then I decided, you know what? I just washed my hair and braided it. I'm going to wrap my hair and I'm going to put my cowrie shell earrings on. And this is the joy of not having to answer to nobody. Okay? So, yes, I am enjoying unemployment. I am. I just feel like, there's no better feeling. And that's why I know I need to make the move that I need to make. I don't want to answer to nobody. I don't want to pass nobody's test or exams. I don't want to be labeled by anybody. And let me just tell you where that comes from. I'm also going to use this as my opportunity to introduce myself to you all, right? So many of you, you know me from maybe a couple of things that I've said, a couple of shows that I may have visited. I've been on different panels. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background so you understand where I'm coming from. Okay. So, like I said, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Um, I was the only female in my family at the time. So, I'm going to talk about my maternal side of the family. To graduate from college. I was led to think that college was the end all be all, right? I was the first in my family to complete this task, and it was such a big deal, right? I had to go to college. My mother knew that I had an artistic side, and she always encouraged, that buying me drawing books and art pencils and hanging my stuff up. But somehow it was always still the notion of, this is a hobby. People don't make a living doing this. So when I got to high school, I majored in architecture. I didn't like it. It was a little too restricted for me. I went to Brooklyn Technical High School. So shout out to my tech alumni. Love my people. Um, After Brooklyn Tech, I also ran track. Talk to you all. You've heard me say that before. I ran track for many years in junior high and high school. Then I went to an all women's Catholic college. That was an experience, right? So I get up to this college and it's all women. And I'm okay with that because, I had a boyfriend a long term boyfriend that I was committed to from my community. And I saw a women's college as a way for me to focus. What I didn't know was that at female colleges, there are more men, than usual because now you have the liberty of having them spend a night and people are in committed relationships and all that. Nevertheless, didn't really affect me because I was working all the time. So I worked jobs throughout school. I worked, the college work study program because I was basically taking care of myself. My mother was at home taking care of my brother and her sister and her kids. They were all looking out for each other. So I was looking out for myself in college. Um, when I was in college, I majored in history. But somehow I never connected to it because it wasn't Black history. It was just European history. And I was like, this is not really what I had in mind. And I wasn't conscious enough at the time to think I need to incorporate Black history into this. There was no motivation to do that. I just saw it as a space where there was no room for us. And so I lost interest and I took up more interest in law, right? So I did. And my last year, they offered a pre law program, and I decided that that's what I was going to do. So my major was history, my minor was pre law, right? One of the reasons why I went into law was because everyone would say to me that I was like um, argumentative, if you will, that I always wanted to debate. That's what I was led to think. Again, looking back, I realized that I always asked questions. I was always inquisitive, and people didn't know how to handle that. And so, what they would say is that I was argumentative, or I was aggressive, or I was too assertive, or I was masculine. These are the comments that I would get. And, as a young person, You may not believe it all the time, but you definitely start to follow the path that people think you should follow, to stay out of trouble, if you will. Okay. So I ended up going to law school, and law school was cool, but I grew up in that Matlock, LA law type era. So I had this impression of the law as being just when it came to us. So I don't have to tell you how devastated I was when I was representing first time offenders, or representing children that were being sentenced as adults, and seeing them be incarcerated and seeing them in shackles. When I tell you that was heartbreaking for me, like I literally couldn't hold back my tears when I would go to facilities. And at that time, I didn't know what an empath was. I didn't know, I just didn't know. I didn't have those kind of people around me. But I always knew I was different. I always knew something was going on. So, I still tried to follow the path. I graduated from law school, took the bar a few times, came very close, but never quite getting past that hurdle. And then finally, I was like, it's just not for me. Like, I keep pushing this, but my resources and my energy is meant to be spent somewhere else, because I found when I was advocating for people that I probably was helping them more. I was put in places to help individuals that didn't have help from anywhere else. And they would say to me, like, how did you get to this little town? How did you get to this place? Like, you seem different. Or, if it wasn't for you, I would have lost my kids. Or if it wasn't for you, my son would be incarcerated. If it wasn't for you, the school would have never took him back. So I realized that my skill was in being a resource, being an advocate, and that was a blessing all in itself, because you don't know. I'm just making sure my laptop doesn't die on us. It looks like it's getting a little dark, but it may be just the sun going up and down because it's snowing again. So that's the kind of work I did. I did advocacy, I did social services. So everything I did was to help our people. Like, nobody had to tell me that I knew. So when I worked for organizations that weren't genuine about helping our people, I would call them out. I don't have to tell you where that led. You're not a team player. You're a problem. You're not cooperating. All the little things to say you don't fit in because you won't get with the program. Again, all I knew was it didn't feel right. You're not going to have me be a part of betraying my folks because somebody else is not paying attention, or someone else is not saying something. So for me, that was my role. You know, I was going to be the one to say something. I was going to be the one to stand up. I was going to be the one to let them know that I see what you're doing and I'm not having it. And I'm not going to be no parts of it. Like, you will not have me sign off papers saying you provided a service that you didn't provide, especially when it comes to us. Not doing it. Not doing it. Not at all. So, that was my experience with working with social service agencies, to the point where I started working with mentally challenged adults and sex offenders, right? And what was so interesting about sex offenders and people that had been sexualized, it was often people that were close to them, and these offenders were also victims of these crimes and just repeating this dysfunctional cycle. So I was in outpatient therapy for a while. I used my law degree to put me into different areas where I didn't have to be licensed at the time. The licensing requirements didn't come about until later on. So I had hands on experience. So I worked as an outpatient therapist, mental health therapist. I facilitated groups. I was a substance abuse counselor. I'm certified in that. But there always was that part of me that had to do my own thing. I'm also certified in fitness training. I'm certified in as a behavioral specialist. Um, Certified in mediation, peer counseling. Uh, I'm certified as a track official, as a wrestling official. not a wrestling referee, an official that would make sure that the young people were the right body weight for their classes, and that the, testing the urine and all that kind of stuff. I did that end of it. Um, did all that when I was in New York. Uh, I even went to school for I went to school in England. I lived in England for 6 months. Um, I went to school for restorative practices, which is like restorative justice, if you're familiar with that. Um, that program promised to be free, and then they later changed the requirements and wanted you to pay. So I did a semester and I was done with them. I just was done with paying for school. I have so many loans now that it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. All it has is it's just compounded interest, and you realize once again you're on a rat wheel, a cycle of not being an entrepreneur, but being trained to work for other people. And it's not in my spirit to do that. It never has been. As much as I try, I do it for the people, not for the companies. So I realized that this whole working for other people, answering to other people, having other people benefit from my talents, I'm not interested in doing that, especially not for the other race. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So I'm looking forward to getting on a continent so I could do what I need to do. So as I go through all this self discovery and I realize the things that I want to do, um, I've come upon some other stuff that I wanted to share with you all. So in talking about why I never liked being employed by others is because I wouldn't be able to do this at work. I wouldn't be able to wear this necklace or wear this top or these earrings, right? Because you're not supposed to wear dangling earrings at work. Yeah, you can't wear head wraps at work. Um, your skirt should be to the knee and more like business attire. But what if I wanted to wear a long maxi skirt that's flowing? Like, I like my fabrics that blow in the wind and don't cling to me. I like comfortable things. But when you work for other people, they want to dictate and control. And I don't do well with that. And I especially don't do well with people dictating my time. The interesting thing is when I worked, I never took off work. No matter if I was sick, I never took off work. I was always one of those people that worked every day. And uh, if I was late, I would call if I was going to be late. But I was never one who took off. My thing was to save my days. So when I was gone, I was gone. Like, don't call me for nothing. My work is completed. I'm good. But I never took off work. I was never a person who called in sick. But I would use my vacation time, you know, and my flex hours. That's what I would do. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. I just wanted to talk about, when I was working, what I was doing, when I was working for other people. But let me tell you what I do or what I did when I'm working for myself. When I'm working for myself, I have cooked meals that people have purchased for me. Um, I make jewelry. I do natural hair, right? Like I said, I taught fitness classes. I've done trainings and I had my own art gallery. I have a greeting card line. I'm an artist. I'm a poet. I write short stories. All of these things that I enjoy and give me solace, I had to kind of stop doing because other things were made to be more important or other things paid the bills. And I'm just looking forward to getting to the continent and doing what I want to do, you know, having a nice chill spot where people can commune, right, from both sides, African Americans, displaced Africans, I should say, from all over the world. Like, that is my goal, to have a spot where we all can come together and learn each other's cultures and, learn to be patient with one another. Uh, but yeah, I am looking so forward to all of those talents coming out. and just loving the fact that I can dress how I want to dress. Like, I can't wait. When I tell you I can't wait, all of these European restrictions, brassieres and underwear and shoes with heels and closed toe shoes and boots and scarves and coats. I'm not gonna miss none of it. When I tell you I can't wait to be free, right? Freedom is real. Freedom is real, and I find that the more I step into my purpose, there are people who don't understand what I'm doing, or they feel like I am trying to force my decision on them, or like I'm judging them. That's really not the case. It's just not the case at all. What it is that I just have a preference for what I want to do. It's kind of like when you're around people of the opposite race and you're talking about your race, and giving big ups to uh, brown people, right? And they get uncomfortable, like, oh, you're prejudiced. You're right. No, I'm not. I just don't dig what you're doing. I just want no parts of what that is you're doing. And that's hard for people to understand when you just have a preference for that one thing, when your focus is so strong. I was telling my girls the other day, my sisters, we were all on a Zoom together, and I said to them, like, I have never wanted anything as much as I want this trip. And that's where my focus is. And I don't expect anybody else to understand it, because this is about an awakening for me. And I think that everybody will awaken in their own way and step into their purpose and walk their path in their own time. And it may not be Africa, it may just be some soul searching that people need to do. But for me, it doesn't involve anyone that doesn't look like me. Okay. Um, you know, so that's where I am right now. And I hope that gave you an introduction. I feel like that might have been a little strange or awkward for you all today, but if you know what I'm talking about, you're going to feel it and you're going to understand it. And if you don't, it means you just haven't gotten there yet, and that's fine. But remember this, because when it does happen to you, you will remember this conversation, right? So I'm going to move on to another topic. So I will see you all shortly. Blessings. Stay resilient, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.